Okay, can everyone see the screen?
Yeah,
Awesome. So welcome everyone today to this week's community call. Guest speaker Alex Gazman from NFTX, founder of NFTX. Welcome, Alex. How are you doing today?
oh, I'm good. Just figuring out how to unmute myself. I'm good. I'm excited to chat to you guys for a bit. I don't really have anything planned, so I'm just gonna riff it and yeah, talk about NFTs and NFTX.
Yeah, that's why we're so excited to have you, man. We've got lots to talk
Awesome.
about. You guys have just had your V2 launch, so
hmm
yeah, loads to dive into. So I'll just quickly go through the agenda for today. Then I'll hand over to you and let you talk about V2 and everything you guys are doing, and maybe we can have a bit of a Q&A about the general NFT landscape right now and where we're going as a space.
100%. Perfect.
Awesome. So we also have updates on the Fuse pool, so the lending market for Yam. Updates on Yam Synths. Obviously, UPunks is live. Everyone who doesn't know, you can get exposure to the entire CryptoPunks market with UPunks. You can earn around 400% APR. You can mint and sell to open a short position if you're not bullish on punks. And then we also have an update for Ustonks, a new basket of Wall Street Bets top 10 bullish stocks. Then we have an update on our website. Now we're at yam.xyz, if you've seen from the new Simp site. So we're going to be talking about how we're going to be migrating all our services to this new domain. Exciting news on the punk fiction NFT drop. So some of you guys have seen these manga heroines. We're going to be sharing a few more details on that a little bit later. And then exciting news on the first Museum of Fine Yams artist exhibition. So that's going to be happening next week. Formal announcement later today with the exact time. And then we have the raffle and the POAP badge. So this week's POAP, as always, the password will be at the end of the call. You just need to message the bot and you will receive a very nice looking POAP badge. So that's all that's coming up this week. So Alex, I'm going to hand over to you and let you take the floor. Everything NFTX. Thanks so much for having you. It's great to have you here.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Will. Yeah, normally I don't say yes to meetings anymore, but I gotta say I really like Yam. To be honest, I'd even like to spend more time in your community calls because I think there's a lot to learn from DAOs that launched around the fall of last year. Even though you only came like a few months before NFTX, that kind of feels like a few years in crypto time. So yeah, it's cool to see how other communities work. But yeah, so I'll just basically talk about NFTX and what we're doing right now. We've changed a lot over the last couple of months, and we've been busy building. So, I've kind of held back from like actually shilling our platform. We haven't really been in growth mode because it's been this awkward period where we didn't really want people onboarding onto version one because they would just have to migrate onto version two. Uh, the reality is that version two, as far as new features, it doesn't have that much more. It is a significantly larger system of contracts because we have staking now, which there's no rewards turned on yet for, but we will be turning on soon. So like there is a staking contract and there's like a fee distributor that distributes fees to staked LPs. And so that was pretty complex. But from an actual like user feature perspective, um, the only two main features that V2 have that V1 didn't was the ability for people to stake their LPs and earn rewards, and also the ability to target redeem certain NFTs. So one thing that's interesting is when I started the project or like launched, in December, I started building like close to a year ago, but yeah, launched about 6 months ago. The goal was very much index funds. At the time, I felt like there was this huge opportunity for people to tokenize NFTs into ERC20s. And so, like, one thing, for instance, that we thought about is like, okay, well, should we let people target redeem certain items? And I was actually pretty against it because my perspective was that our product was the tokens themselves. And like at the time, I was referring to them as index funds. And my belief was that if you can target redeem any item from the basket, then what happens is the token ends up trading for not the average of the basket, but for the most expensive item in the basket. And from like an index fund perspective, that's not good. Like you want the basket trading at its actual mean value. So we enforce this thing where people can't redeem specific NFTs; they can only redeem a random NFT. Uh, and then what happened is like other projects like NFT20, they started, they released a similar model to our own, and even our own model. Like over the a few months, we realized that people weren't even using the funds so much to get exposure. They were really just using it as like a liquidity endpoint for floor NFTs. Um, and so, like, what's interesting about jumping back for a second, I do think we're at this period where people are very excited about both NFTs and DeFi, and people are looking for a way for them to work together. And it's definitely cool seeing lots of projects take different approaches for how to integrate NFTs with DeFi. And nobody knows what will work for sure. My bet personally has always been that the best way that the DeFi is basically built for fungible tokens. And so the best way to get NFTs working in DeFi isn't to rebuild DeFi for non-fungibles. It's just to make those non-fungibles into fungibles. And then once you're done that, like once you've made the NFTs into a fungible token, the rest is pretty easy. Like DeFi is already locked and loaded, ready to go. You can use Uniswap, SushiSwap, Balancer, Aave, whatever, right? Because it's easy to pool fungible tokens. And this is basically what we've seen with, I think, the Uniswap LPs, is that like with Uniswap v3, the LP tokens are actually non-fungible. And I haven't been keeping up on this very closely, but I have seen some people tweet about how they're creating like fungible wrappers. And it seems like people are approaching that problem similar to how we're approaching the problem, which is, hey, instead of rebuilding DeFi infra, let's just wrap these as fungible tokens. Now, it's not an easy problem to solve. And so, like, originally, NFTX, I had this idea for index funds. And one of the things that I thought would be a really strong moat for us is just the punk ticker, for example, like, punk. As a ticker, PUNK, it felt like a moat in itself. And I think we've seen that with WBTC. So, like, wrapped Bitcoin. I'm pretty sure there's other wrapped Bitcoin alternatives now and synthetic Bitcoin that might even be more trustless. But it feels like wrapped Bitcoin, part of their moat just comes from their ticker, because as it gets talked about online, people are like, oh, hey, how do I get, exposure to this? And, it's WBTC. And that ticker in itself kind of becomes a moat. And so like, I felt like, there should really be a punk token. Like that's a great name for a token. Why isn't there one? The mistake I made, I guess, is when I was designing the idea for NFTX, this problem that I came against was that, the problem with a punk vault is that you're only getting exposure to these floor level punks, which isn't great. If your product is an index fund, then you should try and get, a more of a mean price. So my idea was, okay, instead of calling the floor fund punk, we'll call it punk basic. And then we'll have another of other targeted funds. So we have like a punk attribute 4 fund, punk attribute 5, we have punk zombie, punk female. So we had like these 5 base layer crypto punk funds basically. And then the idea was, you'd take these 5 and you'd create a balancer pool that has 20% of each. And then we called that balancer pool punk. And so the idea was, it's like, hey, we're giving the good token name punk to our top level index fund. And by buying this index fund, you're getting exposure to all these other 5 tokens. And the idea was like, punk, I think it was trading at like close to twice the price of the floor, which is good. You're getting exposure to the zombies, all this stuff. Basically though, long story short, what people started realizing is that some of the funds performed much better than others. So like the punk basic fund worked really well because it was the most liquid. And we had like over 70 or 80 punks in it. So buying one punk token on SushiSwap, you're only getting like 1 or 2% slippage because it's a small amount of that entire pool. Whereas the other funds like Punk Zombie, we only had, I think we started with like maybe 3 zombie punks in there. And like the whole idea is how the index funds work is that people can arb them. So if the fund starts trading too high above value, then people can mint more and increase the supply. And if it trades too low, you can redeem and reduce the supply. But the problem is when you have only three punks in a pool, adding a fourth punk or removing the third punk, that's like a really big change in the total supply. So arbitrageurs have to wait until there's like a pretty large profit window, like 15% or more, before this becomes a profitable trade. People like Scott Lewis started bringing this to my attention, Will Price, Chop, and it took me a while to kind of accept that my index fund, this multi-layered index fund model was struggling. And basically the reason it was struggling is because these higher level funds like Punk, which included all these lower level funds, in a way, they were kind of like the most illiquid of the lower funds became the common denominator for the higher funds. So that this higher level Punk token, in order to arb it effectively, you had to be able to arb all five of the lower level funds. It was complicated. It was expensive with gas, and gas started surging right around that, like the time we launched. And a lot of people didn't even understand what they were buying. So people would say like, oh, the Punk token is trading for like 28 Ether. Like, what's up with that? Like, and then we'd have to explain that it's a combination of all these other tokens. So yeah, basically we realized that our vaults were getting used as liquidity pools. So with version 2, we've changed that for punks and we've recreated the Punk vault, and we're now renaming the floor vault just Punk. So the Punk token now will just be one-to-one backed by floor punks, and its price will basically track the floor of CryptoPunks. I think the concept of floors is people have gotten used to it more over the last few months, like what a floor represents, how that's kind of like the minimum price to enter a collection. So I think that this is a step in the right direction. I think it simplifies it, it makes it easier to arb, and it just kind of plays on the use case that's getting more value. The problem is, so now, like, let's say everything goes really well for the next month or so. We're going to be adding in like zaps, so people can just go to a vault, they can browse the vault, and instead of it like paying like 1.05 Punk token, because there's a 5% fee if you do the targeted redeem, instead of doing that, they'll just be able to pay with ETH, and it will just say whatever the ETH price is for 1.05 Punk. So that's cool, and I think it really is going to be pretty awesome. Like a few weeks from now, basically we'll have like 70, 80 plus CryptoPunks in our Punk vault, and they'll all be purchasable for just 5% above the floor, which is like an insane amount of inventory for floors. Like if you go on Larva Labs right now, you might be able to buy like 2 or 3 punks within 5% of the cheapest one. So we'll be expanding that, to being able to buy like 80 different punks, like pick any one for basically as cheap as you can get, which is really cool. It's kind of like an automated OpenSea in a way. The next step becomes, how do we suck in? So like we've kind of given up on this long tail vault idea. Like no more, we're not going to encourage people to create like crypto zombie vaults because it's just too illiquid. And so we're going to encourage one vault per collection. So the question becomes then, okay, well, how do you get TVL from all these non-floor items that are more difficult to price, right? Basically what we're thinking right now, it's still kind of up in the air. But one of the thoughts is, so I think it would be really cool, just to start, I think it'd be really great if we could do like smart orders. And so that people could basically say like, hey, I'm willing to pay a maximum of this much, ether or whatever, for a punk, which, fills this constraint. So you could do something like, hey, I'm willing to pay up to 30 ether for any albino hoodie punk. And then anyone could fill that order. So if even if it goes to Larva Labs, if someone puts like an albino hoodie punk for sale for like 25 ether, some bot can come along, snipe that, sell it to the other guy for 30. They make the 5% profit, right? The hard part with getting smart orders to work is that you need the data on chain. And like punks, for instance, they really on chain, all they have is the integer, and then they have like a hash of the entire image of all 10,000 punks. So the first step to making smart orders possible would be to have some sort of on-chain data bank, where people can basically query a contract and say like, hey, does punk number 1234 have this trait, and does it have this trait? So that then like bots can go and look and they can try and fill this order with punks that that match the properties. It's extremely expensive to deploy data banks on chain on mainnet. I think now with gas, it would probably be like, I'm totally estimating here, but it would probably be like around $5,000 at least, to deploy like a full on-chain data bank for punks that had all 10,000 IDs and had like basically mappings for every trait and which IDs had that trait. But $5,000 isn't that much, especially for punks, because the punk trade volume is pretty massive. So my idea is that, yeah, I think it'd be really great if we can deploy these data banks for the high volume collections, and then we're kind of ready to go once NFTs take off in lower gas environments. But basically, getting back to the thing I was saying before, so if people can make smart orders, so I'm kind of going all over the place, but like one thing we want is for people to be able to come to NFTX, for it to show their NFTs, and basically like a screen that says like, you can dump this NFT for this amount of money right now. And that's a unique feature, because most marketplaces, like if I get cold feet and I want to dump a CryptoPunk or a Bored Ape or something, I have to put it for sale and wait. And that's one thing that's really cool about NFTX, is that the liquidity is just there on SushiSwap. So you can just sell right into the liquidity pool. So we want people to be able to come and like look at all their NFTs and see how much they can dump each one for. So I think the next step of that is allowing people to create these smart orders. So basically, you could have some people that, like I said, they want an albino hoodie punk. They're willing to pay 30 ETH for any albino hoodie punk. And let's say like the punk vault itself, like the floors are trading around 15 Ether. So if somebody comes to the NFTX website, to the sell page, and let's say they have one floor punk and one albino hoodie punk, then our web app will basically be able to tell them like, hey, you can dump this floor punk right now for 15 Ether, or you can also dump this albino hoodie for 30 Ether. So basically, we're accomplishing the same thing we were accomplishing with long tail vaults without actually needing to create the vaults themselves. So it's like, instead of us having a zombie vault and a hoodie vault and an albino hoodie vault, we can just have this one punk vault, and then we can create these smart orders. And the next thing, I probably sound like a bit of a crazy person now, but the next thing I think is really important, and it's a big feature that basically market makers, it would be so beneficial to them, is the ability to use the punk token itself for making smart orders. And the reason I think that's important is, I don't really buy stocks, but like my dad's always telling me like I should buy some Chinese stock because like the Chinese currency is about to go up. And I think like it's kind of similar, like North American investors that invest in Chinese stocks, they have to account for two things. They first have to account for the actual Chinese stock, and then they have to account for the Chinese currency, because the price of that Chinese stock ends up being a combination of the stock itself, and how that their currency is trading against the American dollar or something. And I think it's really similar with punks. So let's say somebody says like, hey, I'll pay 30 Ether for any albino hoodie punk. That's all well and good unless the punk floor changes. So let's say someone puts in their order 30 Ether, and then over a week the punk floor drops like 40%, and let's say it's down to like 9 Ether. What sucks is that now that person that's made that order, they basically have to update their order to account for the fact that punks as a whole have moved in price. Whereas if they could make that order in the punk token itself, then it would always be directly correlated with the collection. So they could do something like say, like, hey, I'm willing to pay 1.8 punk tokens for an albino hoodie. And then no matter how the punk collection itself is trading, I mean, punks could be trading for $10, that order is still relevant because it's referencing a collection or a currency which is based on the collection itself. So I think then, if that takes off, we could end up with all these cool price points, basically. It'd be like one punk for a floor punk, maybe like 1.1 punk for a female punk, like 1.6 punk for a 5 attribute, something, maybe more than that, but something like that. And you end up with all these like tranches, or like, yeah, basically tranches that assets can get priced as, and they're getting priced in the base currency of punk itself, so that it correlates with the collection. And the last thing that I think would be really cool, so like I think, all super powerful for people that are like market making and NFTs. The last thing is just capital efficiency. So like right now, I'm pretty sure if people bid on Larva Labs punks, they're basically, I could be wrong about this, but I think if you bid 100 ETH on 2 different punks, you need 200 Ether to like support those bids. I think it'd be really cool if you had like more capital efficient bidding. So I could bid like 50 Ether on like 10 different punks, and all I would need is that actual 50 Ether. And then if, one of my sales go through, all the rest get closed off basically. And it's just, it allows people to have less capital and to be more active in the market. And then if we could take that even one step further and say, hey, anyone who has a staked LP on NFTX, so if you're staking like Sushi LP, or if you're doing a single side staking in the future, then you could actually use your staked capital for your orders. So like, let's say I have 100 Ether worth of staked capital that's, earning yield. I could basically have a wish list then, and like I could fill up my wish list with all these different punks or smart orders. Like, hey, if a zombie ever pops up for like 3 punk or less, buy it. And you just have this big wish list. And then if any of that stuff ever opens up, what our contracts would do is it would basically unwind your stake position enough to cover the cost. And it would unwind that, it would sell on Sushi Swap, and then it would come back with the Ether or the punk tokens in that case. And it would fill that order. And then, you wake up, you check your screen, you realize, you have less staked capital, but one of your wish list orders filled. And it's just about getting to a place where NFT markets become more efficient. Like there's no reason that someone shouldn't be able to dump a zombie for multiple floor punks. Like any collector in their right mind would trade 2 or 3 floor punks for a zombie, probably much more. So it becomes about, how can we automate NFT marketplaces and kind of build on this model that we have of vaults, and leverage those vault tokens themselves to create more efficient markets, and just really like create more strategies for market makers. So yeah, going forward, I think like, I'm just like one guy. I got, a big stack of NFTX tokens, but ultimately I don't make the decisions. But going forward, like personally, I think the best thing we can do, it seems like most marketplaces or most NFT platforms, they're going for breadth, and like, kind of horizontal domination. They're trying to launch more and more collections. I would like us to really go for depth on the top collections. And one of the reasons is that I think gas is less of an, like NFTs, gas is just so brutal for NFTs. But at least with like the more expensive NFTs, it's less of a problem. Stuff like punks, autoglyphs, even Bored Apes now. It's like the prices are high enough that gas isn't negligible, kind of. And I really believe if we can, I think like a lot of people are kind of refraining from trying to create all these cool market making strategies because they don't apply to the lower value NFTs. Everyone's worried about scaling. In my opinion, it's like scaling will happen eventually. Like there's lots of engineers working on it. And we want to be ready for when scaling happens. So if we can come up with strategies and models and smart contracts that allow people to come up with more complex trading mechanisms for expensive NFTs like punks, autoglyphs, Bored Apes, and if we can really dominate on those collections, then we can basically take that model and apply it to the lower value NFTs if and when they start, migrating to Matic or Palm or whatever, right? Then like we'll be ready to go, and we can just take our NFTX contract suite and we can just move it over to Matic, deploy there or on Palm or something. And it's like we know that our strategies, they work already because we've been playing with them on mainnet with expensive NFTs. So yeah, that's basically my stance. I think I've run down the clock enough here, but yeah, I mean, I hope you guys found that kind of interesting. And if you have any questions about anything at all, I'm happy to answer.
Wow. So interesting to hear about the smart orders. That seems like a much needed feature for punks. So yeah, there's lots to dive into there. I'll open it up, and does anyone have any questions about NFTX for Alex here?
Hey Alex, I have some questions. I'm gonna slightly change topic from NFTs and go to DAOs, but we can go back to NFTs. I know
Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's
y-
talk about DAOs.
you guys have your DAO, and one of the things that I noticed was you guys seem to have opened up a lot of your sort of internal discussions and your channels uh, in your Discord, and I'm curious to hear how that's been for you guys and if you have like lessons learned, because it's something that we've been sort of trying to do more, but it's tough.
I just realized that was you, Ross.
Oh
I've never
yeah.
actually heard your voice before.
I'll turn my camera on later.
That's funny. Uh, yeah, for sure, man. We can have a private set. No, I'm kidding. Um, yeah, no, it's a good question. Honestly, I'll start by saying the last 6 months has been like it was crazy at first. I regret like how I handled certain parts of the hype. It's funny how like when I launched the project and we were raising, we're starting at like $3 for an NFTX. I told like family and friends, don't get involved. And then months later, when we're trading for like $300, I'm like, everyone get in. Um, so I'm hoping I don't do that again if we're ever fortunate enough to appreciate a lot. But yeah, there were a couple months there where I was getting bombarded by lots of VCs and private interest. And yeah, I think as a new founder, it's like you want to be grateful to all these big people that help you, kind of accomplish your goals. But ultimately, it's been kind of a relief the last month having token crash so much because most of these big investors that were demanding things have just kind of left, and it's kind of given me the freedom to like reconnect with our actual team, and it's just crazy because like all these guys on our team, they basically started out as volunteers. It was like weeks before I even like found out they were working on stuff, and now I'm like, we're working full time together every day, and it's awesome. So yeah, about a month ago, there was a bit of DAO turmoil, and like basically people we were struggling to decide like whether we want to go a more like B2B route, kind of work with businesses one on one, or whether we want to go like the more like Yam, Wi-Fi, DAO route. Personally, I lean towards the DAO route, but ultimately it's kind of up to token holders. I do think, and after I started talking with the team more, I realized that like most of the people on our team, they're much more here out of passion than interest to make money. So yeah, basically we decided to open up the Discord, like all these private chats. We were having too many chats, I think, in the private. We still have like some private channels just for like shit posting and fun stuff. But like most of it we try and do in the open. And I do also want us to move more into getting community feedback. It's tough because on one hand, it's like the space is competitive. It's really competitive. And like most of these other NFT platforms are basically centralized, even if they, say they're a DAO or whatever. So it's like, and it's hard to compete with startups that when you're running like a kind of like a democracy. So I have kind of pushed for like the team to make a lot of day-to-day decisions on our own. I think the most important thing is that the token holders are always kind of made aware of big decisions and they have an opportunity to veto. I'm probably getting a little off topic here, but basically it's tough. I would love for like after V2 is like, let's say it's all running smooth and we've gotten like most of like the main features we want to knock off in the next couple months. I'd love us to kind of take a step back and look more at how our DAO is governed. I feel like because we have such a strong team of like 7 dudes that we're all in it every day, that the community kind of doesn't take as much of a lead role, and that's not good. It helps us iterate quickly, but it really isn't ideal. So I would like us to connect to the DAO more. I would like us to actually have protocol in place for what happens if I get hit by a bus or arrested or decide I'm going to be evil. Like right now, people can veto stuff on Aragon, but um, basically there's a lot of friction for people to figure out what they're doing. So So yeah, I kind of forgot what the original question was, Ross. Sorry,
No, I
but
think you got it. I think you
it's
got it.
tough, and it's something I want to work on. And it's something I want to learn from you guys. Yeah, projects like you and Wi-Fi. I think it's like, or Yiffy as I say it in my head. I think it's just it's like, why not learn from the projects that came before us and actually manage to stick around. So, but yeah, at the same time, there is definitely a trade-off, and it's nice that the community kind of lets us off leash enough to iterate quickly while things are quite competitive. Yeah, cool.
And we're all trying to figure this out. So no one has the answers.
Yeah,
That's the big
yeah,
that's the big thing.
yeah. It's tough. I don't know how I got so lucky with getting such a great team. Um, but yeah, it's like doing V2 has been so much. V1, like before the day I launched, and then I launched, and it was like messed up, and it was like I'm all alone. Like people in Discord were being really nice, but like actually having a team, it's great. And yeah, I look forward to us kind of. Who knows what will happen with price, but I feel like we've kind of gone through our first cycle, and we've learned a lot, and now it's time for the actual building to kind of happen. And like, I'm not taking meetings anymore. No more VCs, no more. Just doesn't it doesn't work out. Maybe you guys do though. Maybe you guys have had different different experiences like B2B and working with other businesses. Um, it's just NFT. The NFT space is very hypey right now, and like people, I feel like people a lot want to get into it and they want to pick someone's brain, and then you end up doing like these hour-long TED talks that lead nowhere. But I'm sure you guys know about that.
Yeah, so let's go back to NFTs because that's where all the
Sure.
passion is here. And I do think that was a great question, Ross. So as you say, we've had this hype cycle. Some are calling it the NFT bear market, and of course NFTX token price has suffered. But in the depths of that bear, there's still so much enthusiasm, so much love for NFTs. All these projects are selling out. There's still a huge amount of hype, whether it's profile pictures or art blocks. That there's a lot of passion going on, and I just wanted to get your view of where the space is going, what's going to continue to grow
Mhm.
and develop, and where will the hype die, and what will be more lasting and substantial in your view.
No, it's a great question, and it actually brings me to something else that I should have spoken about, which is kind of like our V2 value prop. And basically, I think if everything goes well with NFTX, basically what we've launched with V2 is a way for people who hold NFTs and Ether to deposit those NFTs and Ether into liquidity pools and earn yield just like you would on an AMM like SushiSwap or Uniswap V2. And basically, when people do this, they do earn the SushiSwap yield. But on top of that, by staking their LP tokens, they earn like this 5% spread that we're going to put on all buys and sells. And I think like the NFT spreads are so juicy. People don't realize like it's gotten to the point that the NFT market makers just get bad reputations like Pranksy because they're raking in so much money. But like they're not doing anything different than what people did during like the ICO boom with fungible tokens. Like you just front run the market, and like that's just what market makers do. It's just that the spreads in the NFT world are like someone like Pranksy or even I've like sold punks before to like people on NFTX Discord like looking for some quick liquidity, and they'll basically like calculate the value and say, hey man, you're looking for quick liquidity, I'm going to take 20% off the price. It's like 20% is steep. So basically, if you can find a way to like create an algorithm like or a smart contract which allows people to just earn this yield without having to do the work of actual market making, there's a lot of money to be made there. So I think where the space is headed, I'm hoping where the space is headed like a month or two from now, is that it's like the definancialization of NFTs, right? It's like they're going to become more DeFi compatible, and I think the next step is that people will start looking at NFTs as a potentially productive asset. So and it's like the yield could be pretty high. So like let's say we have a Bored Ape vault, let's say there's 100 apes in it, and every buy and sell, it's a 5% spread. Let's say that there's 10 buys and 10 sells happening on every day out of 100 apes. So that's 5% spread, 10. I think that's like 1% a day. Is it more? I can't do the mental math, but basically you're earning like pretty good return on your holdings. And how big that return is comes down to how good the turnover is for these floor items. So if like the Bored Ape vault, if the base vault has like 100 apes and it's getting 10% turnover, then it's earning like 5% times 10% per day, which is 0.5%, and then also sells. So yeah, like 1%. Um, and it's like I actually think that it's one thing that people haven't thought about. Like I think that there's a good chance that the Bored Ape vault will get higher percentage turnover than say the Punk vault or the Mead vault, and I just think that's because Bored Apes tend to. I think the lower, like the floor ones, tend to look cooler, and the flip side of that is that the really cool ones are less obviously cool because they all kind of look cool. But I could see like a floor vault for them doing really well and getting potentially 5% turnover or more per day. So I think people will basically start looking at NFTs similar to how like old school Uniswap V2 LPs looked at ERC20s. And I'm hoping it will level up the discussion and it will help everyone be kind of more objective, even myself. Like I won't name projects, but there's certain projects out there that I just like, I can't even, I don't understand how they're selling for so much. But like, if I can earn yield on them and I can put that in NFTX and earn yield, then there's a good chance I'm not going to be like as heartbroken about the space not being pure as long as I can earn my yield. Um, so yeah, I'm hoping that we see that over the next couple months. I know Aave is looking to like roll out like collateral, and I just hope that levels up the discussion. So even stuff like centralized NFTs where the artist can mint more, it's like those are obviously going to be worth less as collateral. And a lot of people, you know, they don't want to accept that now. But when you actually like go and you see how much collateral value an NFT gets you, then you can't ignore these things like the trustlessness. So sorry, very long answer to a simple question, but yeah, I'm hoping that things level up in the quantitative aspects.
Very interesting. Looking forward to seeing how that plays out. Yeah. Anyone else have any other questions for Alex?
I do have just one, Alex.
Cool.
Obviously, in the NFT space, you've just got so much choice. You know, there's just so many different collections coming out. I mean, yesterday there was also quite a few. And I'm just interested to know what is it that makes a collection stand out for you guys to include it? Because you can't include everything, and choosing must be really difficult.
So actually, you know, this is funny. This is a question I've gotten a lot in the last few days, and I guess it means that we need to convey this better. But it's possible for anyone to create a vault. You can go onto the V2 page now. You can create a vault, and I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure after you publish the vault, oh, Chop is here now, so maybe he can answer. I'm pretty sure after you create a vault and you officially publish it, that it will show up on our front end automatically. You might have to shoot a PM over to Javery or Quag. I think that used to be the case. But yeah, anyone can create a vault. So basically what, you know, as far as requirements though, one thing we found, so like previously I wanted to create a Euler Beats OG Euler Beats fund. And I've since realized that since there's only like 24 of them, the chance of us getting enough in a vault to get it liquid is unlikely. I think the threshold for liquidity, it should be like vaults should be able to achieve at least 10 items, ideally 20 items. And if you only have 24 items total, like with the Euler Beats, then it's difficult to achieve like getting 10. But it's not impossible, and like we certainly, our smart contracts wouldn't stop anyone from creating that. The other thing that's difficult to do is anything that uses shared contracts. So like OpenSea, I think some of the Rarible NFTs like Foundation, a lot of these platforms, they use shared contracts, which basically means they have one NFT collection or contract, and they put all the artists' NFTs in it. Art Blocks does this too, but Art Blocks uses ranges. So each collection on Art Blocks, it actually gets like a range of 1 million token IDs. So the first project is like IDs 1 million to 2 million. Second project is 2 million to 3 million. And this makes it much easier to interact with because you can basically query the contract and say like, hey, is this arbitrary NFT part of this collection? And it can say yes or no. Whereas OpenSea, I'm pretty sure they actually, it's just as artists mint, the collections overlap each other. So if like Alice and Bob are both minting, then Alice might get token ID 1, Bob will get 2, Alice will get 3. And then if I have token ID 7, there's no way for me to query the contract and be like, hey, is this Alice's collection or Bob's collection? It's just, I think that they have it in their database, but it's not actually queryable on chain. So like the way you would have to create a vault for one of those collections, we have something called eligibility modules, and it allows you to set custom eligibility. So we have like a range module that we use for art blocks, and it's really simple. You just put in the range of that specific collection, and then that vault will only allow NFTs from that range. And then something like OpenSea, if you were going to do it, you would have to actually put in the specific token IDs of every item in that collection. So for a collection of like something like that has like 100 NFTs or even like 140 like Twitters or something, it would be doable. If you get up into like the thousands, if it's like a 10,000 collection that's getting minted in a shared contract, that's gonna be really expensive from a gas perspective to put all those token IDs. It's probably gonna be thousands of dollars. But yeah, basically, our recommendations for people is anything that you think you can attract 10 or more floor items, and ideally we're aiming for one vault per collection, just because we have these other features coming in the future. We're hoping like smart orders and stuff, so we don't really see a need for there to be long tail vaults like a zombie vault, and we just like to have like a single vault for each collection. But at the same time, we're not stopping anyone. Like if someone wants to come in and create like a hoodie vault for punks, it's totally doable. And stop by our Discord anytime, and we'll definitely talk you through it. I'm giving really long answers. I'm sorry.
No problem. Thanks. You answered my question well. It's good to know. I didn't realize there was no kind of whitelisting, and the permissionlessness is really cool. So yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's just like for scalability. It helps so much to be permissionless. Although with NFTs, of course, there is a bit more legwork involved. No pressure if anyone doesn't want to ask any more questions. I'm sure you guys have other things to talk about, but I'm happy to keep answering.
What's our time look like, Will? We have time for one more?
Yeah, we have time for one more if you've got one. Also, would love to hear your thoughts on what we've got coming up. Afterwards.
Yeah, I was reading up on your guys on Viewpunks last night and stuff. I have a question. Like, I'm curious whether or not you guys deal with outliers, or whether that's still something that's up in the air, or yeah. Like outlier sales, I mean. So like if you see like a lot of like 1ETH punk sales, do those get included when calculating the median, or is there like some sort of mechanism that you're avoiding that? Sorry to like flip the switch here and start asking you guys questions.
So this is it's a good question, and what was that?
Mm-hmm.
No,
go ahead.
This is one of the things. So the way that UMA works is there is a price identifier that sort of lays out, how the different prices are calculated.
Mm-hmm.
You brought up a question that we actually have gone back and asked, and I don't have the answer to it right now, to make sure that because I think the sort of the vanilla version is just you assume that every punk is going to have a price, right? But the fact that maybe it doesn't, because that's how you can transfer these punks, is a good point.
Yeah, I was tweeting about that yesterday. Yeah.
So it's something that we'll need to write in.
One of those funny. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So I shouldn't go and short the synthetic. I'm kidding, but I was actually like, yeah, it's funny because I'd never even seen the Twitter like the crypto bot CryptoPunk bot. It's like tweeting out about these 0 ETH orders, and I'm like, oh, crazy. I guess that's from us. Yeah, that's it's cool. It's one of those like gotchas, I guess, because it's such an early contract. I think what you guys are doing is really cool, though. I will say that, and like I'm hoping that there's ways for you to kind of leverage NFTX price feeds in the future and stuff, and like who knows? But yeah, it's really cool to see other DAOs out there building, kind of DeFi slash NFT infrastructure.
I was just thinking we could
If anyone else
potentially
has another question, I'm happy to answer. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
we could use Punk ETH LP tokens as collateral for something like UPunks to if that becomes useful and people want to need other ways to short or sort of further financialize that, then
Yeah.
there's definitely opportunity within the UMA contracts to use lots of different types of collateral.
Yeah, that's cool. I should take a closer look at UMA. Now that yeah, they're doing NFT stuff with you guys, I guess. I'm really excited about the drop you guys are doing too.
Let's get on to that in a
I like the
second.
artwork.
Okay,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
just to go back a second. Yeah, we'd absolutely love to keep this connection strong between our DAOs, and I think there's a couple of really cool ways we could work together. UPunks is just the beginning for kind of NFT focused synthetics. So the next one, well, moving forward, we could even do work together on a meta index feed, something like that. But yeah, a lot of potential to work together for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I love Yam, so yeah, hit me up whenever.
Yeah. Right.
Thanks for having me. I assume I'm done. I'm done here.
No, because stick around if you don't. Of course, if you're pressed for time.
Oh yeah, no,
course,
I'll definitely stick around.
Should we
I'll
go through this?
Around. I'll just mute
Awesome,
myself unless
awesome.
anyone. Yeah.
Yeah. Jono, did you want to quickly go through the Rari news? Last time we had Jai from Rari Capital, and we now have some good news here.
Yeah, this is super exciting stuff for us. So we've pretty much been whitelisted as a fuse pool creator, so we can go and create as many fuse pools as we like. And we just need to put together, well, I'll put together a proposal that needs to go to snapshot, but we haven't quite figured out where best to take the funds for, because we'd like to bootstrap some liquidity so that there's YAM there for people to borrow and hedge, or if there's USDC in there for people to borrow against, deposit YAM, borrow USDC, those kind of things. So yeah, it really does bring a lot of utility to the YAM token, and we're really excited about it. So be looking out for the snapshot because it's coming soon.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll be tweeting that out and make sure everyone gets your YAM ready for that one. Don't forget you have to actually register for snapshot votes if you haven't already. Yeah, so UPunks here. So don't forget, guys, this is a way you can get punk exposure, exposure to those really high-end, amazing punks. Even aliens, if they sell, it'll be tracked. So this is a way you can get in with 1 ETH or 0.1 ETH. You can get exposure with UPunks. So we also have a product, UStonks, which is the stonkiest product around. So let's have a look at the new basket of UStonks. This is Reddit's Wall Street Bets community's most bullish stocks in one asset that you can earn yield on. So this will be live with rewards on Yam Synths, on the new Yam Synths site very shortly. So we have GameStop, of course, and yeah, that's the overview here. So website news as well, guys. So we have synths.yam.xyz is the new synth site. Some of you might have eagle-eyed noticed the new domain here. So we will be having the protection, museum, and treasuries, which is our DAO treasury management service, all moving to the new site, yam.xyz. So work is going to be ongoing on this. We're in the design and development stage right now. So look out for this very shortly. More updates will be shared. So new site is aiming to keep it, taking a note from the new Yam Synth site, which is professional, I'd like to think, but also very fun. attractive, building credibility, and showcasing our new branding. So we've put a lot of effort into our new branding, and hopefully everyone is enjoying the way we're presenting ourselves these days. So
Oh,
yeah, quick.
is Tom here? I think Tom
Yep, Tom,
wanted
did you want to take this?
Yep.
Sorry, Tom, I'm steamrolling through your presentation here.
No, it's good. That's can everyone hear me?
Yep.
All right, yeah. That's a good segue into kind of the general redesign that we're working on. Could you go to the next slide? So I think a lot of what you said, Alex, actually was really resonating with me as I thought about what we were going to cover in today's call. Just kind of the general evolution of the space and how quickly everything changes, balancing kind of community input and core contributor input, and then just also thinking about who you are and how you educate everyone on who you are. And so that's what we've really been focusing on. I mean, ever since I've been here, for the past 6 months or so, or really getting involved, we just really want to be super intentional, especially now that, like you mentioned, prices are kind of depressed, and we can really focus on building and having the wheat separated from the chaff, and the really dedicated folks sticking around in both the community and the building team. We've been able to take stock of our vision, our values, and what we want to communicate to the community. And so that's what this site redesign is all about. And so the key things that we want to achieve with it is, where do we stand in the industry? We want to be a little bit more buttoned up and professional now that we are maturing. But I mean, DeFi and all of crypto is a fun place to be, and we don't want to lose that spirit of camaraderie. I mean, like you from another group, another DAO coming in and collaborating with us. It's just fun, and we don't want to lose that DeFi creative fun vibe. So we want to get better at just tightening it up a little bit by explaining what Yam is, showcase our new beautiful branding. Yam team has got some amazing designers and talent. And we really want to showcase that, which will then flywheel into building credibility, showing that we are buttoned up, we're building amazing things, and then bring in more talented people to help perpetuate that even further in the space. And again, that just is by being attractive, building credibility, and really being clear about what we're working on. So if you go to the next slide, there's kind of this general representation of where we think we find. It's kind of a silly chart, but I think it actually makes it self-evident of where we're trying to play. So on the y-axis, you've got boomer ranging to zoomer, and then on the x-axis, you have silly to serious. I don't know if any of you know, I think you should leave, but that's what the TC Tuggers thing is. So that's kind of like dad humor in the upper left-hand quadrant. Definitely not appropriate for the space. Then you've got just like childish, ridiculous things like Shiba and stuff that are silly zoomers. And then we kind of want to be more serious, not zoomer, but definitely not also boomer, like your, Price Waterhouse Coopers or your Charles Schwab like retirement account that has an old couple on the beach. Ross affectionately refers to it as like an ED commercial, right? So we want to play in that kind of younger, slightly more serious, but not like dumbing it down for Zoomers where it's like a Robin Hood thing where they kind of lose the credibility because they take away our functionality. So that's the general vision and positioning that we see. And stay tuned to see that updated content and page that Will kind of mapped out earlier.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tom, for that. Okay, this is where it gets exciting. Punk fiction NFTs. Bruce, did you want to take this, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, we can tag team this.
Sure.
Essentially, we I feel like that we have a strong creative community within Yam, both in terms of like visual artists and writers. So essentially, Will and I, we're trying to harness some of the energy to create a series of NFT collections from the Yam DAO, and Punk Fiction will be our first NFT drop. Punk Fiction is like an art series with like a sci-fi manga aesthetic, and also an experiment in creative collaborative storytelling. So it's these are like some sample images of like what the collection would look like, We're gonna share a lot more soon. We're working on a new punk fiction UI, and as well as a Museum of Fine Yams UI to like showcase this and kind of explain the stages of this project. Will, did I miss anything?
No, I think that hit the nail on the head. So excited for this to get out, and I think you touched on everything there. This will be a very limited run. It's this isn't scaling for mass adoption. This is we're starting small here, so it's going to be quite exclusive. And as you just touched on, these are more than just a piece of art. Each character has a backstory. There is a world. How that evolves is will be revealed over time. But I think this is such an exciting way to kick off how YamDAO plays a role as a producer and curator of NFTs, and very excited to share even more details very shortly. Does anyone have any questions, or is there anything I missed there that I should be sharing?
No, it looks good to me. I love the look.
Awesome. That's so cool. So yeah, the next exciting news is our first artist exhibition event, which will Bruce, you can correct me if I'm wrong, will be happening basically this next week, Friday, US morning time, evening time, sorry. So Asian morning time, US evening time. So hopefully it can be a more of a fun session. We can exhibit the other's work. We can invite, obviously, you guys, NFTX are welcome. I'm sure the Metaverse DAOs will be showing up, and some people have already found the exhibition in the Metaverse and have told Bruce that they're not going to miss it. So, Bruce, do you want to jump on in?
Yeah, for sure. Essentially, we want to host like a metaverse party, and like kind of partially like an an artist celebration. This amazing artist named Diella. We're going to showcase her work, and potentially another artist too. And another one is just celebrating our community. Like we have our Yam Synthetic launch. We have a new like yam.xyz website coming out. So we also wanted to do like a party for us, and as well as our collaborators in UMA and other projects too. So we'll have a DJ, we'll have like art and like just like come by, have fun, say hi and like hang out in Metaverse too. It's gonna be event will be on CryptoVoxels. Yeah, yeah. Which I love, the platform I love. I think it's a fun way to discover, interact, and experience digital NFT art.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward to this. Hope everyone can attend that. We will release the exact time later today, hopefully. So yeah, I absolutely love Diela's work, and really looking forward to getting her into the metaverse and talking about her art. And yeah, any questions about the upcoming exhibition? Cool. So just to go back, if anyone didn't see, we have the Museum of Fine Yams live in the CryptoVoxels metaverse. So you can check it out just by going to yam.museum. And you can see some of these works have been gifted to community members who went above and beyond the call of helping Yam grow. And you can also see some of our products showcased in here: Upunks, Ustonks. There's a really cool video that Bruce made on Twitter as well, so you can really get into the feeling of this museum. So we have some other metaverse spots as well where we're exhibiting artists, and that's where Diela's work will be showed. So we will share more details on that very shortly. Okay.
Sorry. The
Yep.
password is wrong here. Go the next one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I messed up, and I had to make a new password. The new password is high five, one word.
With a GH.
Spelled out. Yeah, high five with a GH and five spelled out.
Awesome.
I'll write in the chat too.
So yeah, anyone who hasn't done this, there is a POAP bot account in our Discord server. You just need to send a direct message to the bot with the password high five, one word, and you will get the link to claim your beautiful POAP.
Or DM me directly, and I can help you. Me and World.
Yeah, happy to help. So yeah, if anyone doesn't have any more questions for Alex, or any more questions about NFTX or what we're doing at YamDAO, about UPunks, about our upcoming punk fiction or Metaverse gallery exhibitions, then yeah, now's the time. Otherwise, we can wrap it up here. And I really want to thank Alex for coming along and sharing everything about V2. I'm so excited to learn about how your vision for the space and how V2 is gonna continue to evolve with this model.
Well, thanks, Will. I honestly like. I'm just right now. I'm in my calendar and I'm making a reminder to join in next week too, because you guys are doing really cool stuff. And yeah, I love Yam. I love that you guys have gotten into NFTs, and would definitely like to keep the relationship going.
Awesome, amazing. Yeah, really looking forward to working and growing together and watching this space continue to evolve. And we're just amazed by what you guys are doing and the quality of what you're shipping.
Thank you.
So,
Ditto. Yeah, we're awesome. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm an NFTX. Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks again. It's been great.
Awesome. Thanks for coming along, man. And yeah,
no problem.
So
Cool.
There'll be another call in 2 weeks, guys. And yeah, Metaverse in 1 week. So thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming, Alex.
Later.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, thank you. See you guys.